I don't know if everyone thought about it this way, but Ben Affleck actually had a fantastic year in 2021, from The Last Duel to finally seeing the Snyder Cut and that version of the character. And then we had The Tinder Bar, which released in theaters. It's finally coming to Amazon Prime, and I want to talk about it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are here and you want to support what we're doing, be sure to drop your thumbs up down below. Leave a comment. We're talking all things streaming, and today's movie is The Tinder Bar, not The Tinder Bar. That's a different bar. Directed by George Clooney, this is about a boy growing up on Long Island that seeks out father figures among the patrons at his uncle's bar. Based on a book, a memoir about the life of J.R., starring the likes of, like we said, Ben Affleck, but also Ty Sheridan, Lily Rabe, Brianna Middleton, Christopher Lloyd, who plays your grandfather, and oh my god, perfect casting for that character. And then our young version of J.R. that we spend, I would say, around 40 to 50% of the movie with, Daniel Ranieri, and that's where I want to start J.R. in his youth. This is a story that doesn't truly have anything that you will sit back and say, wow, I've never seen that before on screen. Or if you're reading the book, you're not going to say, well, I've never read anything like this. It's a recognizable tale about a son who grows up without his father, a father whose voice he is often hearing on the radio, and really the radio plays as something that every time he hears it or is even bringing it up in conversation, it reminds him of his father. But his father's not around, and everyone around him seems to agree that that's probably a good thing. He's not a great person. We continue to see that come to light as the movie progresses. But JR's in a very interesting spot growing up because he's seeing and experiencing things that don't fully click with him. It's not something you can grasp at that age. And as he gets older and he goes from our young actor to Ty Sheridan, we see these things come full circle, and he's suddenly aware of either the type of person his father was, what his mother was telling him all of this time, or really, and I like that relationship between he and his mom, even though there's almost this unspoken thing between them. There is much more conversation when it comes to his uncle, Uncle Charlie, played by Ben Affleck. And, you know, I'm watching this movie, and it's interesting enough. There's nothing, like I said, truly spectacular. It all comes down to, well, how is this movie executed? We'll talk about that here in a second. But I almost wish this film was more about the Tinder Bar, the Dickens bar that Uncle Charlie is a part of, because every time we are there, it feels like home. Not only does it feel like home to JR because of this relationship that he has with his uncle, one that, brings a lot to him at a young age, and he continues to feed off of that information, advice, whatever you want to call it, that his uncle is able to give him. I don't want to spoil too much when it comes to what that is like when we see the film, but it's easily the best part. And I found Charlie to be so fascinating, and I didn't get enough from that. Now, what we get is great, but it was so interesting, it was overshadowing what we were getting from this story, because JR is a character that just gets a lot in life. He's told at the beginning, you can do anything you want to do, be who you want to be, go to the college that you want to go to, all of these things in life. It's not very difficult for him, or as difficult as it could have been to raise the stakes of the film, or even going back to the book. So in that way, it's not all that interesting. What's interesting about it is the very minor struggle that we have between he and his father, and when that comes to a head later on in the film, well, that was great. There's also a relationship that he forms with a character by the name of Sydney that is so up and down and back and forth. You know immediately who her character is and what she's supposed to be, and while I found it to be suiting for the story that they were telling, it was also something that I just wasn't fully connecting with, which was unfortunate. Not necessarily their chemistry, just the way that it factored into the overall story. And again, kind of taking away from that Uncle Charlie relationship that was just so, and really the first half of the movie, it got off to such a strong start when he was younger and, overwhelmingly experiencing all of these things. There's a voiceover, very reminiscent of your classic 80s coming-of-age stories. I could have done without it, to be honest, but it wasn't something that took away from the story itself. but it's as he gets older is when the film just starts to, I don't want to say fall apart, but I wasn't as in tune with what it was going for, and I truly wish he either would have stayed young and then get a little bit when he's older, or it could be the fact, and I like Ty Sheridan as an actor, I really do, but he's not as compelling as the younger version played by this younger actor. So that was unfortunate because that's the story that we're here for in the first place. And the second half of the movie, it just didn't live up to the first half. I wanted more Uncle Charlie, and George Clooney's direction, while it's fine, it's competent enough to handle these characters, there's nothing truly spectacular about it. You know, visually, I think the character traits are there. There's a likability and even some comedic beats that worked extremely well for me. You look at someone like Christopher Lloyd. His moments were great. And again, Affleck steals the entire show, especially in the second half when I wasn't as on board. But overall, I thought the film was fine from a directorial standpoint. So if you're asking me, Austin, will I like this film? The answer is maybe. It's a soft and subtle movie, very easy to get through, a coming-of-age story of sorts, and it's kind of in the title. It is a tender film, and especially when he's around those like his uncle who are pushing him in the right direction. He kind of plays like his father figure. That's when the movie was truly working for me, and it does end off in a nice way. Before I give you guys my score, I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, drop your thumbs up down below and stay tuned. We have some fun videos coming this weekend. It is a traditional story based on a semi-interesting memoir, but the performances are able to elevate the material. Ben Affleck steals the show in what is an otherwise okay experience. I'm going a 60% for The Tender Bar. I'm curious where you guys fall on this film. There is definitely enough to say it was worth a watch, but it could have been truly elevated by some spectacular direction or some things behind the visuals. Regardless, it's on Amazon today. Appreciate you guys big time for watching. There's a snowstorm outside. It snowed almost 8 inches, so I'm not going anywhere. Looks like for days. I'll see you guys soon.